And I will be nice to all of the characters, including Fitz.
Is that a promise?
No. That's my what is that called? Not mantra. Um whenever you like manifest, I'm manifesting being nice to the characters. It's within my power. I think usually you're supposed to manifest things that you aren't in control of, but I don't know. I guess like I'm gonna make more money. You low key are in control of that, I get. I don't know. What is manifesting? How does it work? One of life's greatest mysteries. I'm manifesting that I'm gonna be nice to these characters.
Good luck.
I'm manifesting that I'm gonna have good takes and everybody's gonna agree with me.
Ah, yes.
That's what I'm manifesting. I'm manifesting everyone will agree with my takes.
All right, you ready to go?
Yes.
Welcome back to another episode of Is Fitz Happy? I'm Luke.
And I'm Emma.
And this week we're discussing Chapter 12, Jack. This is going to be a long one. I'm anticipating 2 parts on this, actually, going into it, rather than kind of
finding out
midway through and then being like, oh, we should split it up.
Yeah,
this one's long, plus there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Well, there's like, I don't know. There's so much that goes on between.
There's 3 different main encounters in this, right? We have kind of Jack coming in with then Beloved turning into Amber, and Fitz runs away. And then there's another one where he spies on Leonard Cheska for a bit. And then at the end of the chapter, talks to Jenna.
Also, finally talks to Starling.
Yes, talks to Starling and talks to Selden.
Yes.
So we got a lot of stuff that happens.
There's not only a lot of talking to people with Fitz, which is not normal.
Right.
But there's also a lot of big feelings about those talkings, which he then has to muse on before, during, and after. So.
Right.
So I feel like there's a lot to cover.
Well, the beginning of this chapter, the epigraph is a translation by Chade of Captain Slyke's rebuttal of his execution verdict. It is translated from Chalcedean, from the Chalcedean, I guess, so they have their own writing script, which is interesting to kind of note as well. But this is a captain that was part of the Bingtown conflict and is similarly being executed because of cowardice based on an assistant's report who was not even there.
Yes. Also, really interestingly, we get a look at Chalcede's belief system.
Yes.
Or their religion. And that is that they believe in people called God-born. God is capital G. And that they are the people who give sort of the judgments, it seems.
Right, yeah. And there's not much more spoken of them, just in the phrase, I have always accepted the will of the God-born. I am no coward. Basically, this is my fate for me. I will accept it as it comes.
Right.
And it's not referring to the Duke or anything like that.
No. Somebody completely different. Also, I guess I just assumed that, so Scribe Wharton?
Yeah.
Scribe Wharton is mentioned a lot as the person giving the negative reports against this captain.
Yes.
And so in my mind, I guess I just like conflated Scribe with somebody that's religious, but that is not at all told to us. That was just something I was conflating. But yes, there is still the not going against the will of the God-born.
Right, exactly. There's a couple of other things in here. We'll get to the main contents of it and how it's basically, this whole thing is basically a reminder that the dragon thing actually happened.
Yes.
In case, I guess, you skip live ships.
Yeah, I would assume so.
I mean, I don't believe Robin Hobb would write something with that and like anticipation that somebody would skip them because it's in published order. So it feels just kind of like a reminder and maybe an insight into how Chalced works.
That's fair. I was also going to say this is a good look at how the Chalcedeans are handling the news. I think
That's
if
fair.
you
Yeah.
look at it from the point of, so the six duchies we know because we've been reading this book do not believe that, or maybe they've heard rumors, but they don't really believe that the dragon that helped down south is a dragon, slash it's not one of their dragons.
Right.
So they don't really care about it. And then we know that Bingtown believes in the dragon because we read the chapter or the books where they were there and lived it. But we have no knowledge of what happened on Chalcedean's side. And especially with, we've been hearing all this news that the war is still ongoing, despite there being a dragon helping, which you would think would have ended the war. And I think that this is sort of answering the question of why Chalced is still fighting.
Right.
Of like, I mean, there's a dragon, but apparently they don't because they don't believe that it's true. They think that, as we read this excerpt, that they believe the captains are all just making stuff up to try to get out of a battle that should have been easy to win.
Yeah, definitely. And this Captain Slike is kind of going against Scribe Wharton's reports here and that decision because Scribe was not there. And all of the captains who have been to Bingtown say, like, hey, there was a dragon. We are good warriors and we listen to our laws and the orders given us, but we could not stand against them.
Yes. And I also noticed, very importantly, that throughout this message, there is the language of sort of deflecting blame from the Duke, who is ordering the execution, I assume.
Of course, yes.
And so it's not like, oh, the Duke isn't wrong. The Duke is just being given bad information. It's somebody else's fault, which I thought was really interesting because it tells us a lot about how
they handle their leaders.
Yes, how they handle their leaders, because I think that this is somebody begging for his life. And even in that, he's not like, you stupid idiot, you should be able to know that there are dragons. He is saying, no, your beautiful graciousness, you could do no wrong. It's because someone else is lying to you and they're misrepresenting and making stuff up and they weren't even here. So it's their fault.
Yep. Scribe Wharton wrote that a fleet of seasoned battleships were defeated and driven away by slaves and fishermen. This is not the case. Slaves and fishermen were, indeed, responsible for much treachery against our ships, done in secret and under cover of darkness rather than in true battle. But as our captains had not been given warning that the Bingtown traders might have such organized forces at their disposal, why would we be expected to be on guard against them? I think the fault here lies not with our captains, but with those Bingtown emissaries, scribes, and accountants, not warriors, who neglected to keep us well informed. Hanging is too kind for them. Many brave warriors died unworthy deaths due to their laxity in reporting. So this captain also goes on to say that Scribe Wharton suggests that the Chalced captains loaded treasure and kept it away from the Duke, and this captain relates that why is it so hard to understand that the Bingtown fanatics burned their own stuff rather than let us have it?
Yeah, because apparently they're being accused of trying to steal the plunder that is owed to the Chalcedeans, which is interesting because it does sort of put them in line with the same as the Islanders, right? As people who go and pillage the places that they attack and destroy.
It was kind of like declaring a war. We're taking this city, so yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that Scribe Wharton says, and Captain Slike says it is his gravest and most unjust error, is his denial of the existence of the dragon. May I ask, most courteously and humbly, on what he bases this report? Every captain who returned to our shores reported sightings of a blue and silver dragon. Every captain. Why are their words dismissed as cowardly excuses, while the tales of a soft eunuch are heralded as truth? There was, indeed, a dragon. We took disastrous damage from it. Your scribe fortuitously states that there is no proof of this, that the reports of the dragon are, quote, the excuses of cowards for fleeing a certain victory, and perhaps a subterfuge for keeping treasure and tribute from Duke Sidder. What proof, I ask, could be sought that is more telling than those hundreds of men who never returned home? So we get a lot more info into Chelsea here if you look closely. One is the repeated emphasis that the Bingtown people are not warriors, and
Yes.
therefore they don't even deserve hanging. Like because they messed up, like they're not worthy of anything because they're not warriors. That's how Chelsea kind of looks at people, right?
Yeah.
Warriors are their top tier.
Yes.
And this captain especially is like, why is a eunuch declaring these things when they're untrue? When I'm a warrior and all your other captains were warriors fighting this. So there's kind of a little bit of pushback there as well. And then the last thing I want to say is mentions Duke Sitter, which is really interesting to me. And I think it's either we'll get to it in the Rainwild Chronicles because we get a lot more about the Duke of Chelsea. But this is either a plot hole or a specific Chelsea thing that is not explicitly written about. Because later on I looked this up because I did not remember this name in particular.
Mm-hmm.
The Duke himself, in his own point of view, refers to himself as Roland Blood. It's like, I used to be known as Roland Blood. Okay, maybe his name is Roland Blood Sitter. And then his daughter says, no, my dad's name is Antonicus Kent.
Oh.
So, and he's been the Duke forever.
Yeah.
Like, it has not changed as far as I am aware. So either you have like a warrior name and retire it, or like you change names often, or this is just something that Robin Hobb kind of forgot about and then renamed the character.
Yeah. I mean, you could write it off as a mistranslation because it's being translated to a different.
It's true.
However,
Yes.
names typically don't change in translation.
Right.
But I don't know. I guess it's hard. Like the duchies, they have names that are meaning. I mean, though they're just words, right?
Right.
So maybe it could change. But it also could be, like you said, since there are multiple names, maybe that's his like official Duke name.
But also the Antonicus Kent one, I believe Tessum says that he has not gone by that for a long time because people just call him the Duke. So I don't know if it's, it's something, either a quirk of the specific man and wants to ditch past lives, or something about Chelsea that we don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe just a rewriting, little retcon.
Yeah. Odd. I don't know.
But even because it's all in, I wouldn't go to retcon or plot hole, because in the Rainwild Chronicles, if he refers to himself as Roland Blood, and then his daughter refers to him as Antonicus Kent, that's three names there, right?
Yeah.
So
maybe they get different names for different stations in Chelsea.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or maybe, like, I think there's a cultural thing, some culture that gives different names for, like, you get more names the more important you are.
Yeah, could be. So
anyway, that's the intro.
That's just the intro, but we get a look into Chelsea a little bit, which is nice.
One of the few.
Yeah. And then it's picking up right where we left off with Fitz.
Mm.
I mean, yeah, kind of right off. We skip the scene where he talks to Chade and the Queen about the revelations he gets from Beloved about the dragons, and then he speaks on what he actually said during that meeting, or like reflects on what he said during that meeting.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking more it's the Robin Hobb tendency to start in the middle and go backwards.
Yeah, that's
so
fair.
He's like, oh, it's been hours and I'm walking back, but here's what I did. Mm-hmm. Instead of, I know sometimes she'll put in like you're following exactly where the last chapter left off. So
yeah, Fitz says, I had a long audience with the Queen and Chade. Chade had declined to summon Prince Dutiful to attend it. He knows that we know one another, you and I, from of old, but I don't think we would be wise to strengthen that connection in his mind. Not just yet. On reflection, I decided that perhaps I agreed with him. Chade was technically my great-uncle, though I had never related to him that way. Always he had been my mentor. Old as he was and scarred as I was, we still shared some family resemblance. Dutiful had already voiced his suspicions that I was related to him in some way. Best that he did not see us together and gain strength for any of his theories. Which is an interesting. What do you think of that decision? I think, because we talked about before in Fool's Errand that it seemed like they weren't including Dutiful that much in
Yeah.
decisions. And I think I had said maybe it's because he's not king in waiting yet.
Yes. I feel like it's odd to me that Chade cares because it
Yes.
doesn't. I mean, I know that Fitz doesn't want to talk about his relationship to the Farseers yet,
Right.
but it's odd to me that Chade is taking such a strong stance on it because it feels like
He's so secretive, though.
he is secretive. But I mean, it just doesn't feel like he agreed with Fitz on keeping it a secret for the most part. And also, I mean, maybe I'm just misremembering what we've read so far, but it feels like whenever, I guess he doesn't really put up much of a fight.
I don't think Chade puts up much of a fight. I think Kettrican wanted to tell him, right?
Yeah,
in
that's
that one-on-one, and Fitz is like, please don't. And then she decided, I will tell him when the time's right then.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe Chade does care and he doesn't want to give away more secrets, but it just feels like an odd thing for Chade to care about, I guess, is my opinion on it.
Well, Chade takes advantage of this meeting because Fitz mentions that he had never had the chance with Kettrican and Fitz in the same room to talk about the stone dragons and that whole event. So it was a very, very long meeting where he started taking notes and then he passed the notes off to Fitz.
Right, because his hand gets too tired.
Exactly. And he was asking a bunch of questions that, Fitz doesn't really know the answers of. And he was very, very eager. And Fitz says what was new in his demeanor was his obvious enthusiasm and fervor. For him, the wonder of the stone dragons brought to life with blood, skill, and wit were a manifestation of the extended powers of the skill. I saw hunger in his eyes as he speculated that perhaps men seeking to avoid death's cold jaws had first worked this magic. Kettrican frowned at that. I surmised that she preferred to believe that the stone dragons had been created by skill coteries in the hopes of serving the Six Duchies someday. She probably believed that the older dragons had likewise been carved for some loftier goal. When I countered this with the concept that a skill addiction led one to the creation, they both scowled at me.
I disagree with Fitz's take here. I feel like this is a good example of him being an unreliable narrator because I don't believe what he's ascribing to Kettrican's belief on this subject. If only because we know from the first trilogy that the mountain people still sing that song of like one man goes up to the mountain, two man, whatever. So,
but they knew they thought it was just a little rhyme thing, right?
That's fair. But I don't know. I feel like it's weird that he thinks that Kettrican is off-put because she must think that there's a loftier reason for the dragons, when maybe she's just off-put because she can see that Chade is being weird about chasing after prolonging his life.
No, that could definitely be true. I don't take much umbrage with this supposition by Fitz, though, because we know that she's very touchy about the subject, especially because Verity is a stone dragon now.
That's fair.
And she blew up even more than Fitz was expecting in the audience.
That's fair.
And I feel like with that reaction, he's like, well, Kettrican would ascribe a loftier goal and a loftier reason for people to become stone dragons because it requires such great sacrifice.
That's fair, too.
And
yeah.
My king did that, or like, so.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. But I don't think that her believing that Verity did it for a loftier goal means that she has to believe everybody did it for a loftier goal.
It's definitely true.
And then also, I love that he can't believe, well, that's not what he says. This is how I'm reading it. Fitz can't believe that everybody scowled at him when he said that maybe everybody carved a dragon because of their skill addiction. And that one, I believe, is because Kettricken doesn't want to see Verity as someone who is addicted to skill and was compelled to do that. I think that's directly related to Verity because of it needing to be loftier because Verity sacrificed so much. But I don't think that's like a nobody could have. I think that's more of a like, my husband was not addicted to the skill. Thank you very much.
Fitz goes on to say that he had been scowled at a great deal because he was supplying them with all of the information about Bingtown that Beloved had passed on, and said that the fool had given him that information and those stories back when they were in the cabin. So he was shielding the fool from their ire, I guess, and their anger. And he doesn't really know why he's shielding the fool from that, but basically takes the onus onto himself, saying, like, I withheld the information because I didn't think it was useful. I thought it was like fanciful tales or whatever. I did not have to add that it seemed a wild story to me then. Both of them were still teetering on whether they accepted it. It puts our own dragons into a new light, Kettricken mused softly, and makes the veiled man's remarks a bit less offensive, I ventured to add. Perhaps, though I still feel affront that he dared to doubt our dragons were real. Chade cleared his throat. We must let that pass for now, my dear. Last year I came into possession of some papers that spoke of a dragon defending Bingtown from the Chalcedean fleet. It seemed but a wild battle tale to me, such as men often use to excuse defeat. I surmised that the rumors of our real dragons had led the Chalcedeans to pretend themselves defeated by a Bingtown dragon, rather than simple strategy. Perhaps I should have heeded it. I will see what other information I can purchase. But for now, let us consider our own resources. So he then addresses Fitz and asks about buried cities that the fool told him about, asking if it could be related to the abandoned city, which we know is Kelsingra. And Fitz has no way of knowing, he says. It wasn't buried, it was riven in two like a great cataclysm had struck it. And there's an interesting passage here about cataclysms, and the last couple chapters have been with that, because that's the last chapter is when we got the fool talking about his theory on what happened.
Yeah.
Right? Of the extinction of dragons and the serpents not being able to find their way back because shoreline's changing.
Mm-hmm.
And now we see Fitz say that city that I found was definitely struck by a great cataclysm in some way. It was like a cake chopped with an axe, and the water of the river had flowed in to fill the chasm. What cracks the earth in one city could have precipitated a sinking of the ground in another, Jade speculated aloud. Or wakened a mountain to wrath, Kettricken put in. We have many such tales in the mountain kingdom, the earthquakes, and one of the fire mountains awake to pour forth lava and ash, sometimes darkening the sky and filling the air with choking smoke. Sometimes it is but a slurry of water and muck and stones that cascades down, filling valleys to the brim and spreading out across plains. There are also tales, not that old, of a town in a valley near a deep lake. The day before the earthquake, all was well there. It bustled with life. Travelers arriving there 2 days after the quake found folk dead in the street. Yes, and their beasts beside them. None of the bodies bore any marks. It was as if they had simply dropped where they stood. Very interesting tale.
Yes.
I feel like it reminds me, I can't remember of the specific city or event, but it reminds me of those old, like, mysterious deaths back in, like, I don't know, the early 1900s or mid 1900s, where they found, I believe it was in like Eastern Europe somewhere.
Oh, are you talking about the trail where the campers are?
I think so, yeah. It's
they had
very
radiation,
vague.
but they're
they just like all of a sudden just dropped dead, and like, yeah, I don't know. It's really weird.
They actually solved that recently.
I think they did.
Aside.
Yes,
But
I think they did. But like, it reminded me of that, of just kind of a, one of those crazy mystery tales.
Yeah, I know it does. It did also. I was thinking of like what's the name of the not the Dahmers? Is it the Dahmers that go the pass? They go to the Oregon Trail.
Oh, I don't know.
And then they get snowed on top of a mountain and they become cannibals. You don't know about this? Abraham Lincoln was supposed to join them and he ended up not being able to because his wife said no. And they went on this path they get. This is real. This is a real story. Sorry, history lesson.
You saying the Dahmers like tripped
I
me out
know
because of
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
No. I'm
Okay.
pretty. It's like
Something around that. Okay.
Yeah.
But they go on top of this mountain anyways.
they go on top. They go into a mountain. They get snowed in because they leave really late, and they can't find the trail. They can't go forward. They're stuck on these wagons, and they slowly all go missing. And then later, it's found that they find some of them. I think they all die.
Right.
This part's fuzzy. I think they all die, but it's found that they find them later, and they also find human remains, and so they had cannibalized because they couldn't find food and they were trapped for so long.
Wow. Crazy. Yeah, I guess Robin Hobb brought in a lot of these kind of disasters and interesting stories in here too.
Yes, but it's the Donner party. Sorry,
Donners. Okay.
The Donner party. Anyway, yes, but it is really interesting to hear it from Kettricken because it tells us that there is some history passed on through the Mountain Kingdom people. And this is especially big because they do live so close to an old Elderling city. So there is potential that they are descended from Elderlings, right? There's a chance.
There's a chance, yeah.
There's a chance that some of them went, or at least some of the people had dealings with the
Right.
Elderling city,
Yeah.
and so know what happened, and then passed down these stories.
There was a road directly to their kingdom.
Yes, not that far from where Kettricken grew up. So I don't know. It's definitely interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I like hearing the tales, and it's interesting that it is made to feel like this is some like tale of old of like, ooh, there's a mystery afoot, when this is most likely what did actually happen.
Right.
But our characters don't know that for sure. So I don't know.
Fitz says Chade then asks him a bunch of questions he can't quite answer, mostly about allegiances with the Stone Dragons and allegiances of the Stone Dragons with a possible real dragon. And Fitz is like, I have no idea.
Right. Like real dragons weren't real when I last talked to them.
When they finally dismissed me so that they might deliberate together, I felt sure that several meals must have passed me by. And he leaves Kettricken's chambers by the secret ways, of course, and finds his own way back to Lord Golden's chambers, seeing that he's missing, goes down to the kitchen to find some food.
Yes. I would also like to make an aside that I believe that only some of the stone dragons would take the side of a real dragon, because that would be the ones with the elderling memories.
That's fair, yeah.
And they would care more about what dragons are doing. And I think the ones that are just people who are removed from the dragons would take up the plight of humans.
Probably.
That is just my own theory. But when Fitz gets to the kitchens, he is turned away. There's too much going on because people are preparing a feast for the Bingtown visitors, and there's just a lot going on.
He goes to the guardsman's hall anyways, where he gets some bread, meat, cheese, and ale. And then he climbs back up the stairs. He's wondering if he could steal a moment or two of sleep while Lord Golden and the rest of the Buckkeep nobility were at dinner with the Bingtown contingent. I knew I should dress and descend to stand at his shoulder and watch how the evening proceeded, but I felt I had already taken in as much information as my mind could hold. So he's walking his way up, and he tells himself, okay, I just need to sleep for a little bit. Sleep will shield me from all of this and all of the information that I need to kind of process.
Right, which I think is really important to highlight before we go into this next portion, that he is very sleep deprived.
Mm-hmm.
He has not been, he's months long sleep deprived anyway. He's not getting good night's sleep because his daughter Nettle is trying to get into his dreams, but also particularly right now, he just had a bunch of stuff happen with Hap. He's been up really late trying to figure out where Hap went, barely got any sleep, then had to get up and do this meeting in secret, and now is still going hours after being questioned. There's a lot happening. He's probably stressed and tired.
Right. Yeah. He taps at Lord Golden's door and lets himself in, and as he does so, a young woman stood up from one of the hearthside chairs. I glanced about the room, assuming that Lord Golden must have admitted her, but saw no sign of him. Perhaps he was in one of his other chambers, though it seemed unlike him to leave a guest unattended, nor did I see food or wine set out, as he certainly would have done. She was a striking woman. It was not just her extravagant garb, it was the sheer scale of her. She was at least my height, with long blonde hair and light brown eyes, and a warrior's muscling in her arms and shoulders. Her clothing was chosen to emphasize that last feature. Her black boots came to her knees, and she wore leggings rather than skirts. Her shirt was of ivory linen, and her fancifully decorated vest of soft doeskin. The sleeves of the shirt were pleated, and there was lace at the cuff, but not enough to get in her way. The cut of the garments was simple, but the extravagance of the fabrics was only exceeded by the embroidery that graced them. She wore several earrings in each ear, some of wood and some of gold. In the spiraling wooden ones, I recognized the fool's handiwork. There was gold at her throat and on her wrists as well, but it was simple gold, and I would wager she wore it more for her own pleasure than for show. She bore a plain sword on one hip and a practical knife on the other. I wanted to read that whole thing because I totally forgot that Jack also would have gotten a share of the treasure, and that she would also be very rich.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. She was there.
Yeah.
So,
But anyways, she stands up, there's a moment of surprise, and then her stare wandered over me in a way that was overly familiar. When her eyes came back to mine, she grinned disarmingly. Her teeth were very white. "You must be Lord Golden." She extended a hand to me as she strode towards me. Despite her foreign dress, her accent was Shoke's Dutchy. "I'm Jack. Perhaps Amber has spoken of me." Specific Dutchy accents.
yes, which we do know is a thing because Fitz had to practice his different Dutchy accents in his assassin training in the first trilogy. But interesting that she's from Shoke's. I think we were trying to figure out where she was from.
Yeah.
And we couldn't remember, so.
I think she's just introduced as being from the Six Duchies because they let women sail there.
Yes.
And it was one of Amber's friends, something like that.
But then the little boy.
We don't know where he is from, Clef.
Yeah, but he is also from the Duchies, or we just don't know at all.
Yes, he's from the Duchies as well.
But he has a way different accent than Jack, which is something we pointed out.
Yes.
So.
And I don't know if this is true, so somebody who's read the last trilogy more recently than I have, please let me know. But when Fitz meets them in the last book, I believe, I think he just says that he has a Six Duchies accent, but like nothing that he's ever heard of before, or like he's hard to understand. So it makes it almost like there aren't accents, but Clef's is unique. I don't know. It's kind of hard to judge.
To be fair, Clef moved to a different country, basically.
I mean, yeah, that's
when
true.
he was really young, so he probably has a weird amalgamation of accents.
That's fair. But again, I don't know if that's what it actually says. So.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, if she's from Shoke's, that's where I was thinking that he must have been from, but
he might be.
Just a different part. And I guess, I mean, England, you could be a town over and have a completely different accent. I don't know.
She says that you must be Lord Golden, and he's like, "No, you must be mistaken. I am Lord Golden's serving man, Tom Badgerlock. I'm sorry that I was not here to admit you when you first arrived. I had not realized Lord Golden was expecting a visitor. May I bring you anything?" "Lord Golden isn't exactly expecting me. I came looking for him, and a servant directed me here. I knocked, no answer, so I came in to wait." "So, how is Amber?" Something was not right here. I glanced at the other closed doors. "I know no one named Amber. How did you get in?" I stood between her and the door. She looked formidable, but her clothing and hair were unruffled. If she had done any damage to the fool, she'd likely show some signs of a struggle. Nor was anything in the room awry. I opened the door and walked in. It wasn't locked. That door is always locked. I tried to make my contradiction pleasant, but I was becoming more and more worried. And we know that he left by that door to go down to the kitchens. And I don't think he'd be sleep deprived enough not to lock it, but he could have been. We just don't know.
Well, he didn't mention locking it. And
but he doesn't mention a lot of those little things.
Fair. But also, he didn't unlock the door to get in either.
True.
And he wasn't startled by the fact that he didn't have to unlock the door.
I don't know.
So that's just something to think on. But it is, you can see why he's getting freaked out, right? Like,
Yeah.
his friend, somebody's asking for his friend that he does not know, and she's not a six touchy person he's ever seen.
Very familiar with him.
Uh-huh.
Very familiar with the rooms. Not familiar with Lord Golden.
No.
But also is making reference to someone that he has no idea who it is.
Yeah, he's like, who's Amber? And I think the thing that's putting his hackles up is how familiar she's being and how much she like is acting like she knows him.
Yeah.
Which is fair on her part because, as we know as rereaders, Paragon looks like Fitz.
Yeah.
Amber carved Paragon to be in Fitz's likeness. So, of course, Jack feels like she knows him. She has lived on the ship. Like,
Amber also like talked about him while carving.
that's
vaguely,
fair. Very vaguely,
but
yeah.
also like mentioned, yeah, it's someone I used to know, whatever. Like, no, the nose is perfect, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know. So Jack is saying like, no, the door wasn't locked today, Tom. So I came in, let myself in, and I've had a lot of business with Lord Golden, so should be fine. I'm known to him.
Yeah. Which, this is kind of funny because Jack has been Amber's bodyguard before.
Yeah.
So it's not as though Jack doesn't understand that people would be on guard for, like, you know, just like strangers against strangers and being worried about how things are. So it's funny that here she has a guy who's getting clearly uncomfortable and feeling like she broke in and something's wrong, and she's just like, oh, I know Lord Golden, it's fine, and she's not worried.
Is Fitz being clearly uncomfortable in body language?
That's fair.
We're in his mind.
That's
we know
true.
that he's becoming more alarmed, but he's had some language here that says like, I'm trying to keep my contradiction pleasant and like be just inquisitive about things.
That's fair. Okay, maybe I'm reading too much into that.
And it is Jack too. She's just overly friendly in all ways, and a lot in all ways.
I love her. I think she's great.
But she says that she's done a lot of business on Lord Golden's behalf with Amber as the go-between. So from rereaders or first-time readers, you can kind of surmise that Jack is the one who Beloved has sell things for her.
Yes.
For them to get the money.
Also, this is who has been sending the personal letters to Lord Golden that he has been hiding from Fitz.
Yes.
So that's a fun little solve of the mystery. I mean, I guess there could be other people, but I assumed it was Althea Brashen and Jack.
She tilted her head and rolled her eyes at me, and I don't believe for a minute that you don't know Amber. She cocked her head the other way and stared at me discriminatingly. Then she grinned. You know, I like you better with brown eyes. Much more becoming than the blue ones Paragon has. As I stared at her in consternation, her grin grew wider. It was like being stalked by a large, overly friendly cat. I sensed no animosity from her. Rather, it was as if she suppressed mirth and deliberately strove to make me uncomfortable, but in a friendly, teasing way. I could make no sense of her. I tried to decide if it would be better to eject her from the room or detain her here until Lord Golden returned. More and more, I longed to open the door to his bedchamber and privy to be sure that no treachery had befallen him in my absence. With sudden relief, I heard his key in the lock. I strode to the door and opened it for him, proclaiming before he stepped in, Lord Golden, a visitor awaits you, a Lady Jack. She says this is a... Before I could get any further in my warning speech, he pushed past me in a most uncharacteristic rush. He shut the door behind him as if Lady Jack were a puppy that might race out into the corridor, and he latched it before he turned toward her. His face was as pale as I'd seen it in years as he confronted his unexpected guest. Lord Golden? Jack exclaimed. For a long moment she stared, and then she burst into hearty laughter, pounding a doubled fist against her thigh. But of course, Lord Golden! How could I not have guessed? I should have seen through it from the start. She advanced on him, completely confident of a warm welcome, to hug him heartily, and then step back.
This is kind of an odd response from Beloved.
Yes.
And we talked last chapter about how Beloved was being cagey about not wanting to be seen by the Bingtown delegation.
Yep.
And we weren't really sure about exactly why that might be. I think we discussed a few ideas. We weren't super.
Fitz also kind of discussed a few, and I think we all kind of landed on, including Fitz, that Beloved's not telling the full truth and would probably get recognized by someone out there.
Yeah, that's fair. But this seems like a really bad reaction to Jack seeing through the disguise. And even more so, he is startled enough to not have put more of an effort into the disguise, right? I think we see here how much Fitz does know Beloved, because Fitz is picking up on these little things about Beloved that it seems like Jack isn't picking up on. And he's like noticing how pale the fool looks and how scared he is and how uneasy he seems in a way that is never really touched on by Jack. And I feel like she's the kind who would rib him about, you know, being so scared. I don't know. But he is freaked out. He is very clearly freaked out. And Jack continues to sort of warmly say, oh my gosh, like, I should have known it was you. To me, he looked dazed, but her grin didn't faze. It's marvelous. If I didn't know, I never would have guessed. But I don't understand. Why is this ruse necessary? Doesn't it make it difficult for the two of you to be together? She glanced from him to me, and it was apparent the question was addressed to both of us. Her implication was obvious, although I could not fathom her reference to a, quote, ruse. I felt the rush of heat and color to my face. I waited for Lord Golden to make some clarifying remark to her, but he held his silence. The look I wore must have shocked her, for she turned her gaze back to Lord Golden. She spoke uncertainly. Amber, my friend, aren't you glad to see me? And I think this is really interesting because we see this snowballs sort of the misunderstanding. It's been building up. There have been little things that people have been doing.
I don't even know if we can call it misunderstanding anymore. It's inaction on Beloved's part in this.
But we did point out that Fitz encouraged the inaction, because there's that talk that he has, that Beloved and Fitz have in last book when they're bringing the prince back, and they talk about how Beloved says, what are we supposed to do? How do we explain our friendship? How do I explain the civil thing? Whatever. And Fitz says, just don't answer. Let them come to their own conclusions.
Yeah.
And so, yes, Beloved's inaction is causing this misunderstanding, but it is directly on the advice that Fitz gave.
I don't know if that's applicable to a close personal friend that Beloved obviously knows and Fitz does not.
That's fair. I mean,
like it's an assumption that Fitz obviously finds uncomfortable, and Beloved knows that Fitz would find uncomfortable. There's a reason why Beloved has not addressed it and is very like confrontational later about it. And not addressing it in this moment is Beloved's inaction that kind of sparks that. Right? Fitz is kind of he is overreacting about things here. But it is that inaction there that kind of starts that trigger in my mind.
Okay.
Of just like, speak to the person that you obviously know and I do not. I don't have to answer. Like, I shouldn't have to answer this.
That's fair, I guess. I think I'm more thinking about how Fitz has continuously talked about how dazed and surprised and odd Beloved is acting. Beloved hasn't said a word yet. I feel like this points to this not being like, not that I'm saying that this is what you're saying. I don't think this is a malicious inaction. I don't think this is even a thought of about inaction. I think this is Beloved reeling and trying to figure out what lie to use, what story to tell, how to spin this, how to like keep his world separate, how to figure out how to navigate this awkwardness.
Right.
And I don't think So I think that in this moment, this inaction is coming from a place of him not really fully listening to what's going on and mostly just panicking that these two things are colliding.
I think so too. What do you think is sparking this panic? Is it just personal? Is it the kind of reveal of the ruse of Amber is not Lord Golden, or Amber is Lord Golden, I should say, and the reveal that Fitz is Tom Badgerlock / they're not together, and that whole kind of side colliding? Or is it something more? Because, I mean, we'll get into it in a couple pages, or a couple paragraphs here, but Beloved says stuff to like, hey, you shouldn't be here. Like, you're ruining everything.
Yeah, so that's really interesting, right? That's something that I haven't said yet, but this is very clear because of Jack saying, like, oh, you surprised me. I didn't realize you were Lord Golden. And this implication that Amber is the go-between. That's crazy. Like, why didn't Beloved tell his friend that he was Lord Golden? And I'm wondering if, just like we've talked about how all of the personalities are real facets of Beloved the person, I wonder if Amber is just one of those facets, and that like felt like a very personal personality and one that they didn't really want Fitz to know about. And so I'm wondering if it was partially not wanting Fitz to be privy to Amber. It's too personal. Or if there's some like other explanation as to why Jack can't know about Lord Golden.
Right. So this line here that I was saying, like in a page, we'll jump back, but this is kind of important for this discussion. Amber says to Jack, "This ruse, as you put it, all of this is necessary, and I cannot explain why to you, nor can I tell you the whole of it. I can only repeat to you, it is necessary. You hold my life in your hands. Tell this tale in a tavern some night, and you might as well have slit my throat now." Like, that seems a little bit more than just personal, right? That seems like it's part of Beloved's plan to keep Lord Golden and Amber separate. And that particular part makes me think that it's part of a vision that they've had, some path in the future, that if these two get out, this link between them gets out, or at least maybe just logical thinking of Beloved, if these two are linked, maybe agents of the Pale Lady, who I think Fool suspects is around and doing stuff, will put it together that I'm here and then kill me.
Interesting.
But that goes hand in hand with the personal, like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? Because, I mean, you can deal with that. Jack is your friend, right? Like, right. Jack will not snitch.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I'm trying to rack my brain because I was wondering if maybe this is something to do with, like, is it the idea that Lord Golden... This is such a convoluted way to talk about this, but Lord Golden is known as a man and Amber is known as a woman.
Yes.
Is this the idea that potentially Lord Golden is a woman and that could ruin things because a lady of the court is not going to be able to be as... a lady of the court isn't going to be able to do the same things that a lord of the court is just anyway. But then the fact that a lady might be posing as a man could be a big scandal. It could...
Those could be scandals, but what would make Beloved's throat get cut from those things?
That's what I was wondering. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, is there something to that? Is it... But we've never seen the Six Duchies people. They don't seem to like react to...
Just to the witted people. That's
they seem to
violence.
Really hate witted people, but other than that, they're not doing violent acts to others. They don't love...
They'll shun you.
They don't love the gay thing. They don't... I don't know. That's how it came to me. But they don't like when people are. I don't even know if that's true either, because it seems like there is a very strong and well alive gay community even at the castle.
Yes, but quietly.
Yes, quietly for sure. I'm not. Yeah,
There always has been those communities throughout history, right?
yeah,
Not always loud or part of society.
that's true. That's
And
a
I
valid
feel like
point.
that's how it is in Six Duchies right now.
So maybe that's part of it, is that like that's just a step too far. Like people can't accept the idea of a
Yeah.
trans person, or just like even a woman pretending to be a man, like, because I'm sure that's how they would take it.
Right. I don't know. I just don't buy that for fools like desperation about
Yeah.
it. I feel like it has to do with an actual danger to him, which would be, in my mind, Clarice and the Pale Lady.
Well, okay, hear me out. Now this is a real tinfoil hat. So get it ready and start unraveling. Basically, this is sort of the catalyst of Fitz not trusting Beloved and starting to push away and not want him to come along on the journey. And that journey is the only way Beloved believes that
It's
what he wants will
also
happen.
it's also where Beloved pushes Fitz away and starts divesting money from Lord Golden and becoming more and more of like a slob and
A
losing
degenerate.
those connections in Bingtown because the fool knows he's going to die soon.
Yes. So I'm wondering. So I say this because, I mean, I know Fitz also is aghast and like, I'm not going to let you die. If you come with, you're dying. I'm not letting you come then.
Right.
I wonder if part of this path, seeing Fitz and Jack together, like that's the thing that sparks, or like that's part of
Maybe.
the path where he dies.
Yeah.
And so seeing it happen without him even there is freaking him out, because he knows that that's the path he's on. And this is like the realization of, I tried to keep it separate so that there was no chance of this happening to like run into each other. There's some chance that if he could have separated Jack from Fitz, that they never meet, that maybe it doesn't have to be the path. Like there's a different path being taken.
I think I did buy into that at the beginning as well.
I don't know. Because it is such a strong reaction. And maybe there's a lot more of Beloved and Amber than any other character.
We don't know. Yeah.
Maybe it's as simple as Amber was a vulnerable version of Beloved. And especially because we know Jack and Amber are so close, and they spent more time than Amber's and Beloved has spent with really anybody else in such a close capacity.
Right.
That maybe it was sort of just, that's so deeply personal, and I do not want anyone to know anything about me, and you know too much, so you need to stay away.
We kind of see that here too, because after Jack asks, "Aren't you glad to see me?" Lord Golden finally speaks, saying, "Tom Badgerlock, I have no further need of your services today. You are dismissed." Never had it been harder for me to remain in my role, but I sensed desperation in Lord Golden's retreat to formality. I clenched my teeth and bowed stiffly, containing my seething affront at Jack's obvious assumption about us. My own voice was icy as I answered him. "As you will, my lord. I will take the opportunity to rest." So that is what we talked about before with Beloved's character too, reverting to those specific characters to hide vulnerabilities, right?
Right.
And I saw this particular moment, that retreat to formality and that desperation that Fitz hears in his voice, is like, please let this remain a barrier.
Right. And I think it is, we should talk about how it is a big deal that Fitz has just been offended here. Beloved knows that. Beloved knows.
Jack knows that.
Jack knows that. Beloved knows that this is a big mess up, that there is a lot of things happening that are out of their control, and that their oldest, dearest friend is not happy with what's going on. And I think that the fact that despite that, we still have Fitz being like, my friend has a boundary
Right.
and
Yeah.
I'm going to respect that boundary. And I mean, but in this moment, I'm going to
Yes.
respect that he clearly wants to be Lord Golden right now. I will play along despite being very angry and not appreciating that nothing was said in my defense.
Right.
And I will go along with this ruse because clearly he needs this right now. And I feel like that speaks to the depth of their friendship. And I mean, we've seen that building up, right? Because he's doing all this stuff to protect Beloved and to protect his friend from other people and from the backlash he might receive for not telling something sooner. And then here, after doing that, he is confronted with somebody thinking that he has a relationship with his friend and his friend not saying anything about it and then being like, go to your room.
Right. I know.
That's a big deal. And I think it's big of Fitz to respect the boundary enough to play along in this moment and to go to his room, like to just go.
And then he says he's not proud of what he does next, but he is burning with indignation that Jack obviously believed that Lord Golden and him were lovers, and that Lord Golden had not bothered to correct her misconception. Her words and manner told me that he was the source of it. To some end of his own, he allowed her to continue in that belief. And it was the way Jack had looked at me, as if she knew far more about me than I knew of her. And so he sets to spy on the conversation.
I would like to say this is kind of wild of Fitz because clearly Jack thinks, well, I guess Amber might be a ambiguous name. But like he does realize that Amber is a woman later. So it's like I don't know what. They can be gay, that's fine. I have no problem with gay people.
Fitz does.
Fitz does. And so I think the fact that he's like fixating on the fact that to him, Beloved is a man, that is what he believes, that anyone would see him with a man is crazy and he can't get over that fact. But to Jack, Amber is a woman pretending to be a man in this case,
right.
But Amber is a woman. And so even if the assumption is that they're together, that's not that big of a deal because
from Jack's point
of view, this is a boy and a girl.
Sure.
And so in that aspect, it shouldn't make Fitz upset because that isn't a big deal to him. You know what I mean? I don't know.
But again, he doesn't know that Amber is a woman. He doesn't understand that full story yet. And the thing that he gets caught up on here is that Jack got her misconception directly from Beloved, and Beloved is not correcting it. And Fitz says that whatever she knew of me, she knew from the fool. I justified my spying on the grounds that I had the right to know what he had said about me to strangers, especially when it made a stranger look from him to me and smile in a way so knowingly and so offensive. What things had he said about me to her to make her assume such a thing? Why? Why would he? Outrage struggled to blossom in me, but I suppressed it. There would be a reason, some driving purpose behind such a talk. There had to be. I would trust my friend, but I had a right to know what it was.
And I think this is really interesting to me because this isn't trusting your friend, right? Like he doesn't trust Beloved. He doesn't trust that there is some reason behind it because he's staying to listen. He wants to listen and hear to find out if he can find out more. Instead of asking his friend, waiting to be able to ask, to let Beloved tell him in his own words what's going on, he spies. And I think this is a big deal because he's still justifying in saying, I won't try to justify it by saying it's my assassin training. It's because I have a right to know about myself, what's being said about me. That's still justification, right? Like it isn't full trust in Beloved. And I don't know.
That's kind of earned from Fitz's point of view though, as well right now. It's like, okay, so the fool and Beloved is telling lies about us behind my back. Is he my friend? I'll trust him and I won't like have an outburst right now, but I will listen in to see what was being said.
I think my problem with that line of thinking is that Fitz does know that Jack is from the Bingtown emissary, right? Or maybe he doesn't. Maybe
he doesn't. He can assume maybe that they were part of it, but she was not in the room.
That's true. And okay, never mind. I'm going off the assumption. I'll backtrack. I thought he knew Jack was with the emissary. She could be from Shokes, visiting from Shokes. Yeah. This could be a Lord Golden contact from Shokes. This has nothing to do with Bingtown. Okay. I was going to say he knows she's with the thing and that he had a different persona there. No, he doesn't. Never mind.
Yeah, this is just some random woman that came in with a Six Duchies accent.
Yeah, that's super rich and wants to speak to Lord Golden.
So the fool says, "What are you doing here? Why didn't you let me know you were coming?" There was more than surprise or annoyance in the fool's voice. It was almost despair.
This is technically, I think, still a Lord Golden voice. I know it says the fool, that Fitz calls him the fool, but I think that, and I'll explain more why, but This is Lord Golden's voice to me.
To you? Why? Why to you? You said you'll explain it. Okay.
Yeah, we'll keep going and then yeah.
How could I let you know? Jack demanded cheerfully. The Chalcidians keep sinking all the ships that head this way. From the few letters I've received from you, it's obvious that half of my own have gone awry. Then, so admit it. You are Lord Golden. I've been conducting your affairs all this time? Yes, he sounded exasperated, and it is the only name that I am known by in Buckkeep, so I would thank you to bear that in mind at all times. But you told me that you went to visit your old friend, Lord Golden, and that all my correspondence to you must be sent through him. And what of all the transactions I've made in Bingtown and Jamalia? All the inquiries I've made and the information I've sent you? Were all of those actually for you as well? He spoke tightly. If you must know, yes. And then pleading, Jack, you look at me as if I've betrayed you. I haven't. You are my friend, and I was not pleased to deceive you, but it was necessary. And this is where the fool says, you hold my life in your hands. If this tale got out, you might as well have slit my throat. I heard the sound of Jack's body dropping into a chair. When she spoke, there was a trace of hurt in her voice. You deceived me, and now you insult me. After all we've been through, do you really doubt my ability to hold my tongue? I did not set out to do either, said someone, and the hair on the back of my neck rose, for the voice was neither Lord Golden's nor the fool's. This voice was lighter and devoid of any Jamalian accent. Amber's voice, I surmised. Yet another facade for the person I thought I knew.
So this is why I think that before he's still speaking in Lord Golden's voice and not the fool, there's no reason for him to drop a third accent, if that makes sense.
No, that is true. I get that. I get that explanation, but also why would Fitz has always been able to distinguish between Lord Golden and the fool and switches between those in conversations when the fool drops, the formality or certain tones. So why would he now not be able to do that?
Well, I was thinking it's because it's his friend talking and he knows it's his friend. Like, he's aware of the ruse, so he knows that even though it's Lord Golden's voice, it is the
just like a narration tool rather than Fitz identifying.
Yes. And also, if you think about like Lord Golden to Fitz is this like aristocrat who is always put together and witty and whatever. And Fool is more sincere. And so when he's hearing the sincerity, it is the Fool talking, but it's still
without the visual to confirm that it's still, Lord Golden or whatever.
Yeah. Like I feel like, especially because he says there's no Jamalian accent, unless Fool also has a Jamalian accent.
No, he wouldn't.
Right. We don't know. The way it's written, you could either take it that both Lord Golden and the Fool have a Jamalian accent, it's because he was previously speaking a Jamalian accent, and now he's not, and it's not the Fool's voice. So this must be Amber.
Yeah.
It's very interesting that there is no accent ascribed to Amber, though.
Just lighter.
Yeah.
And
but anyway, so that's why
Fitz
I
is
think.
freaked out about it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because if he didn't know, he would think there was a stranger in there. It's a completely different person, which is crazy. Voice actor of the year. But I think this only adds to the fuel of the whole, like,
It becomes
I don't know
the
my
main
friend.
thing. Yes.
Yes. Like,
This
I don't
becomes
know
the
this
main-
person.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I would like to say that I believe this misunderstanding is never truly forgiven by Fitz because he has such a hatred for Amber in the final trilogy.
Yeah.
He, like, truly hates when Fool is like, I'm sorry I have to be her right now. And he's, like, so mad about it, even 40 years later, or however many years pass between now and then. But, like, all because of this. He hates Amber, and it never goes away. He never forgives the Fool on some level, which is kind of crazy to think about.
It is just, you have taken me by surprise and frightened me badly. I entered this room and there you were, grinning as if it were a fine joke, when actually you... Ah, Jack, I cannot explain it. I simply must trust to our friendship and to all we have been through together, all we have been to one another. You have stumbled into my play, and now I fear you must take up a role in it. For the duration of your visit, you must speak to me as if I truly am Lord Golden, and as if you are as my agent in Bingtown and Jamalia. That's easy enough for me to do, for such I have been, and you speak truly when you say we are friends. It hurts me still that you thought any of this deception was needed between us. Still, I suppose I can forgive it. But I wish I understood it. And then there's some talk about Tom Badgerlock, which we'll get into.
Yes. So I do want to point out that now Fitz should be able to understand that Amber was a persona when Fool was in Bingtown. This is a person that only knows the Fool from Bingtown.
Right. But again, this is Fitz spying on something, just like with the Narcheska. He has no narration in his head. He has learned when he's doing these spying things just to understand and watch the scene and not put any thought into it until later.
Yes.
So we don't get any in Fitz's head moments here, just the scene.
Yes.
So Jack continues saying, when your man, this Tom Badgerlock, when he came in and I recognized his face, I was filled with joy for you. I watched you carve that figurehead. Don't deny to me what you feel for him. They are reunited at last, I thought to myself. But then you bark at him and send him off as if he were a servant. Lord Golden's serving man, in fact, is what he told me he was. Why the masquerade when it must be so difficult for both of you? A long silence followed. I heard no sound of footsteps, but I recognized the chink of a bottle's neck against a glass's lip. I guessed that he poured wine for both of them as Jack and I awaited his answer.
Before we go on, does your copy say I watch you carve the figurehead?
I watched you carve that figurehead.
Mine does not say that.
Oh.
Mine says, I was filled with joy for you. You carved his face on Paragon's figurehead.
Oh.
Don't deny me what you feel for him. They are reunited at last. I thought to myself.
Maybe a little bit of a clarification in edition 2 or something.
Must be. That's so weird. So anyway, when you read that, I was like, oh, that's weird that you didn't. But
yeah. So Amber says then, it is difficult for me, the fool replied in Amber's voice. It is not so difficult for him, because he knows little of it. There, fool that I am and have been, truly, to have ever let that secret have breath to anyone, let alone shape. Such a monstrous vanity on my part. Monstrous! Immense! You carved a ship's figurehead in his likeness and hoped no one would ever guess what he meant to you? Ah, my friend, you manage everyone's lives and secrets so well, and then when it comes to your own, well, and he doesn't even know that you love him? I think he chooses not to. Perhaps he suspects. Well, after chatting with you, I am certain that he suspects now, but he leaves it alone. He is like that. Then he's a damned fool. A handsome damned fool, though. Despite the broken nose. I'll wager he was even prettier before that happened. Who spoiled his face? A small sound, a little cough of laughter. My dear Jack, you've seen him. No one could spoil his face. Not for me. A pretty little sigh. But come, I'd rather not talk of it, if you don't mind. Tell me of other things. How is Paragon?
Oh.
Yeah.
So
That has to be very disturbing to hear from Fitz's point of view.
you think?
Yes, because it's such a departure from the Fool or Lord Golden that he knows. They're so private. They never talk about feelings or like anything like that. Of course, it's with Fitz, right?
Right.
Who is like the topic of this right now.
Uh-huh.
But having Amber be so close to somebody else that he had never heard of before, using a different voice that he has never heard before, talking to her with a different name that he'd never heard of before today.
Yeah.
And it's the same person as his closest friend since he was a child. That's freaky.
Yeah. Okay, touche. That's a good point. I feel like this is crazy what I'm about to say, and I recognize that. I would feel like maybe he doesn't actually have a crush on me and he lied. Like, he likes... I don't know how to explain this. He has always said that Fitz is his catalyst. And so maybe... This is crazy. I want to start by saying I am a Fool beloved truther. I believe that beloved.
Fitzloved.
Yes, Fitzloved. I think that they love each other. I think that it's like never the right timing. I don't know, whatever. I need to start with that. However, there is a way you could read this as Beloved knew it was time to come back to Fitz because he was seeing more visions of Fitz, which led him to draw them and try to write them, make sense of the path, what the next choice is to bring back the dragons. And whenever he's with Paragon, Paragon says, make my face somebody that you love. That doesn't have to be a romantic love, but because he is Amber and he carved a man's face, it's taken as romantic love and he plays into that. And so
could be read like that, yeah.
You can't now just be like, no, I just like him as a friend. And like, no, you don't get it. We're just really close, but not like that. Because he played into the whole like mysteriousness of it, because Beloved is really private and they are very
that's a really, really good point, because Amber is not necessarily telling the truth and it also could be a facade.
Yes. And so I feel like there is a way to hear this conversation and take it as, this Amber character needed to excuse using my face, whatever reason. I feel like that is kind of weird. Like, why did you carve my face into a figurehead?
Yeah.
But clearly this is about like, he had to say it was because he liked me so much. He knows that Beloved carves stuff and does stuff like weird, not weird, but just like has to do stuff because of profit stuff.
I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't think that's known. Like, I don't think that Beloved has let Fitz know that he has to write dreams down or like draw anything.
Okay, well, never mind that. So I don't know, but like there's
I agree. Yeah. I agree with that. There is a way to read this. However, that has to be from an extremely objective mind. Yes. It is hard to read it like that on purpose when this evidence happens to you.
Yes. Yeah. No, for sure. But I do think that there is, I now believe, like, because of this, that the way that we're doing this podcast and how we're reading it, I do now understand how there are some people that are like, no, they don't like each other, even with this scene. Mm-hmm. Like, I can kind of understand where that would come from that point of view. I personally still believe that there's love there and that maybe this is a little bit of the truth slipping out and that this is a real part of Beloved that is able to come free in Amber that isn't able to do so otherwise.
Right.
But yeah, Fitz is not taking it well.
And they turn to gossip.
Yes. And Fitz can't believe it. They're gossiping like girls. But But Beloved is a dude. Like, he's very like.
You're skipping all of the gossip here.
Sorry,
You're
well,
skipping to his reaction.
We will, but okay, fine. We'll start with the hot goss, which
Amber asks about Paragon, and Jack is like, the ship or the pirate princeling? Both, of course, is the answer. And now we know that Paragon Ludluck is lively, lusty boy, the image of King Kennet and his mother's delight. The whole Raven fleet's delight and darling, actually. That's his middle name, you know. Prince Paragon Raven Ludluck. And the ship? Moody as ever, but in a different way. It's not that dangerous melancholy he used to sink into, more like the angst of a young man who fancies himself a poet. For that reason, I find it much more annoying to be around him when he's moping. Of course, it's not entirely his fault. Althea's pregnant, and the ship obsesses about the child. Althea's pregnant? This Amber took a woman's delight in such tidings. Yes, Jack confirmed, and she's absolutely furious about it, despite Brashen walking on air and choosing a new name for the child every other day. In fact, I think that's half of why she was so irritable. They were wed in the Rainwild Traders Concourse. I wrote to you about that, didn't I? I think it was more to placate Malta, who seemed humiliated by her sister's cavalier attitude toward her arrangement with Brashen, than for any desire on Althea's part to be married. And now she's with child, puking her guts up every dawn, and spitting at Brashen whenever he gets solicitous of her.
Sorry, your copy says sister?
Yes.
Mine says aunt.
Her aunt Malta? Her aunt's? Oh,
Malta,
no.
who seemed humiliated by her aunt's cavalier attitude.
Yeah, mine says sister. So it's another. Well, yeah.
Maybe yours is a later edition.
No, because mine is wrong. Well, Althea is Malta's aunt.
Yes,
and
but
mine
I'm saying
says sister.
But in the next book series, Althea is sisters with Malta, according to the text. Like.
Yeah, and I think that's because it's just an error. And I think in this one, for yours, they must have fixed it.
Oh.
Because why would mine, a later edition, correct something that was already written to be wrong?
Maybe they thought because the other edition was out that it was... I don't know. Touche.
Yeah, mine says sister, which is wrong.
That's incorrect. No, mine says aunt. So they catch it this time. Maybe there's a version out there that doesn't have it wrong at all in the later trilogy, and there are readers out there listening being like, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah, maybe. There's a lot of funny little editing issues in the last trilogy.
That's true. Well, anyway, that's crazy. That's so funny. I was like, are you doing that on purpose? But no.
But also, Brashen picking a name every other day, and they settle on Boyo Trelvestrit?
Yeah, what is that? Like,
I mean, it's not much better than Renesmee. Like, what's going on here?
Well, I wouldn't go that far. Well, but also, can we talk about the fact that they got married because Malta wanted them to? I thought they were planning to get married themselves. Like, didn't they talk about going to the Traders Concourse to get married themselves?
Yeah, they did. But it was never like set in stone. It was like Brashen being like, I'll marry you in front of the Traders Concourse if you want.
Oh, okay.
Well, and Amber's asking, well, she must have known that she was going to get with child eventually, right? And then Jack kind of talks about, and I think this is kind of for
the reader
/ Fitz's benefit. Maybe Amber wouldn't have known too much about the traders.
She lived with them for like a decade.
Not that long, but it was only like 3 or 4 years. There was 15 years in between. Well, maybe close to a decade. You might be right. But again, they keep those things really close to themselves, right?
Well, yeah, but if you're living in town, you'd notice that people don't have very many kids.
Maybe.
And there's a lot of pregnancies.
We haven't explained what the paragraph is about. Yeah. So this paragraph is about how it is hard to conceive for the Bingtown traders, and that Malta has already had 2 miscarriages, and that it's incredibly rare. So it is something that was not expected, but it is greatly received news that she is pregnant.
And Jack talks about how the fact that pregnancy is so hard and it's not guaranteed that she'll have a baby at the end is probably what's making Althea so upset.
Right.
That she's having a really rough pregnancy, and at the end she might not have a baby to show for it, I think is how Jack words it. But another big problem is that there's arguments over where to have the baby, because
Right. Yeah.
her mother wants her to come home to have it, and the ship insists the babe will be born on his decks, and Brashen would let her give birth in a tree so long as he had a baby to dandle and brag over afterwards. The constant stream of advice and suggestions just leaves her spitting mad. That's what I told Brashen. Just quit talking to her about it. I said to him, pretend you don't notice and treat her like you always have. And he said, and how am I to do that when I'm watching her belly rub the lines when she tries to run the rigging? But of course she was just around the corner, and when he said that, and she overheard, and liked to burn his ears off with the name she called him. And so they went on, gossiping together like good wives at a market. They discussed who was pregnant and who was not, but wished to be, doings of the Jamalian harbors and court, politics of the pirate islands, Bingtown's war with Chalced. If I had not known who was in the other room, I would not have guessed. Amber bore no resemblance to Lord Golden or the Fool. The change was that complete. And that was the second thing that scalded me that evening. Not just that he had spoken of me to strangers in such detail that Jack could recognize me and believe I was his lover, but that there still remained a life or lives of his that I had no knowledge of. Strange how being left out of a secret always feels like a betrayal of trust. I don't love that take after everything he's heard. I'm not saying it's not valid. His feelings are valid. However, to say that Beloved spoke of Fitz in detail enough for somebody to think that they were lovers is crazy when he just heard that he just, like, they clearly, it was ambiguous enough that Jack thought they were together, but he says, no, he doesn't even know I like him. Like, Amber has said, he doesn't know I like him. Now he does for sure, but he didn't know. And also knows that Amber carved a figurehead to look like him. So yes, Jack does know his face because she has seen the face before. But at no point does it seem as though over what he has heard that Beloved was out there pretending like they were lovers and giving intimate details of Fitz's life. Like, I don't feel like that's a fair reading of what he's heard. I think he's just hurt by the fact that Amber's different than the other two personalities he knows.
I think it's also the fact that Lord Golden or the Fool or whoever did not deny anything either. I think that it comes back to that inaction that I talked about.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what's really getting to him, is that, sure, if there's misconceptions, fine, own up to that. Like, shut it down from Fitz's point of view, you know?
But Amber does, like, she does in that moment say
not in front of him, not defending him, you know? And that's important as a friend. If he hadn't spied, he would have never known that she denied Fitz knowing about it or anything like that.
Yeah, but he also did listen. And he's still acting like I think
because
that's
it still
my
hurts.
point.
It's still a betrayal in front of him, right?
I mean, I don't know. I feel very conflicted about this because I feel as though this is a weird situation and Beloved clearly was shaken up, and he does eventually say, no, there's nothing between Fitz and I, basically. But Fitz is still mad about it. And it's like, you know that your friend was shaken up and is freaking out and keeps saying, like, my life is in danger over this. There's clearly something going on there. But instead of focusing on why does he feel as though his life is in danger if this identity is known, he's focused more on somebody made an inference that I like a guy. But even that isn't true. I don't know. It's just...
Look, I agree with that, but there's only one instance where Amber says, you might as well slit my throat if this was get out. And second of all, Fitz was also shaken up. He was also just worried about the fool's well-being. Like, did this woman harm my friend?
Yeah.
And then comes in and doesn't defend him, like with a misconception that Fitz obviously is uncomfortable about, right? So there is just like, Fitz isn't in a space to look at this from our perspective of just like, hey, there's more going on here, Fitz. Like, no, it's still a very deep betrayal in his mind that he's focused on. So he's only focused on those details, I'm guessing. And that's what I'm getting out of this, at least. Like, he's relaying the whole conversation for the reader's sake. We get this whole thing, but I'm sure he's not thinking super objectively about everything that's coming out of Amber and Jack's mouth. So
Yeah.
I understand why he says that was the first thing that still scalds me. I totally get where you're coming from, and objectively, yeah, there are things that refutes what he was thinking before, right? And this is what Fitz does, right? He hears something and later thinks about it, and maybe we'll have a better take later. It doesn't happen this time, obviously, because they have a fight about everything.
Yeah.
But if it was just this part without Amber being around, maybe Fitz and Beloved could have a talk about it. But the compounded fact where he says here, what you mentioned, is that the second thing that scalded me, not that Jessia had spoken about me, but that there was still remained a life or lives that I had no knowledge about. I think that's really the hardest thing that he takes. Which what he says here is very ironic, because he says, strange how being left out of a secret always feels like a betrayal of trust, which he has done so many times to his loved ones. It's so funny.
It's like Fitz's whole thing. His whole MO is that he like picks and chooses what he tells other people.
Molly, why are you so upset that I kept that I was a prince from you? Molly, why are you so upset that I kept that I was an assassin from you?
Molly, why are you so upset that I kept that I was alive from you?
Yeah,
like,
right. And Beric, why are you so upset that I kept I was alive from you?
It's just, yeah, I think.
But it is true. Like, it is true. We rag on him for doing those things,
yes,
right?
You're right.
And this is, again, like I said before, a completely different person from somebody that we've talked about before. This is kind of the only person besides Night Eyes that he fully trusted.
Yes.
This is the only person that he would actually talk about his feelings and thoughts for the future, and actually seemed like he felt he had an obligation to fill the fool in on his life.
Yeah.
And that's like the only community obligation that he felt he had.
Yeah.
And it's a betrayal from that person.
Yes. I think this chapter, this is the only chapter I'm not objective in. This chapter is hard for me to be objective in, I think, because I personally feel like I feel as though I'm on Beloved's side, right? Like,
right.
I am a person who is not straight. And so if my friends had this reaction, like, I would be so hurt. And so, like, I do have I am biased to be on Beloved's side, because it does feel hurtful that, like, first of all, Fitz's first thing is like, ugh, gross, how could you like me? But, like, second of all, there's, like, no trying to understand maybe why Beloved felt like they couldn't be open about their feelings. And, like, also the fact that Beloved isn't acting on those feelings. And yes, we've talked about, like, there's, like, subtle hints of Beloved showing more interest in Fitz in this series than last series. Like, there's definitely little things that nod to there being feelings that Fitz is picking up on before this moment. But at the same time, I don't think that there's, like, I don't know how to word this well.
Never presses anything.
No, this isn't like you have to date me because I have a crush on you. I'm, like, putting my feelings on you and you have to do something about it. This is sort of just like
No, definitely.
I don't, like, I respect our friendship, so I'm not doing anything about it, but I do, like, have a crush on you, and that comes through sometimes kind of vibe. And so I think I personally just, whenever I read this, it makes me so frustrated that Fitz is so fixated on like that, like he's so offended. And it's like, maybe it's not about you. Maybe it's hard to talk about. And like, I don't know. So I think I'm just overly sensitive on that. And so it's like really hard for me to
Yeah.
be on Fitz's side. And I feel bad because I don't want to make it seem as though Fitz has no right to be upset or hurt by this situation.
No, we've talked about this before too, is Fitz has internalized homophobia, right?
For sure.
That's how the Six Duchies basically is.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like there's a lot of prejudice against witted people and a lot of prejudice against LGBTQ groups. And we don't see that very often in the Six Duchies, but mainly in this trilogy here. Like, I don't think it really comes up in the first one at all.
Yeah.
But it's just how it is. That's just like what he was raised as. I don't know if it was...
Yeah, Fitz gives, you can be gay, just not around me.
Yeah.
Which...
I don't know if it's his time in the guards and if, like, ACAB or like...
I don't know. It's just, yeah. So, like, I think it's good that we both are, like, here to talk about it because we are taking it from such different perspectives, and you are able to sort of, like, keep Fitz's...
I can divest from both points of view, I think.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like, coming in on Beloved's side of this is crazy because we talked about that before. Like, if Beloved is seeing threads of the end of his life coming together right now is insane. But also, like, the panic of, oh my God, I carved my crush's face onto a figurehead and my crush does not know that and we have to work together.
Yeah, literally, like, we're coworkers. Don't make it weird. Like,
no, it is awful. But from Fitz's side, this is because it's his point of view, right?
Right.
This is absolutely devastating for his trust of the world, his ability to open up to people. He doesn't have Night Eyes anymore. He was already being distanced from the Fool and feeling alone because of the distance that they have to put because of Lord Golden and Tom Badgerlock roles. The issue with Hap is happening. His distance from Jinnah just happened. And now this avenue, his oldest friend, is cut off.
Yeah, it is really hard. And I do try to remind myself that, like, also, as I pointed out before we started this, Fitz is super sleep deprived in this moment.
Yeah.
Like, nobody thinks well sleep deprived. That is not your most well-rounded self. So even if there was a version of this situation that Fitz takes well, like, this was not the recipe for it to happen. I think it is... I get annoyed at, like, right after him telling us all the information that proves that Beloved, number one, didn't go pretending that they were together and also wasn't giving intimate details, that he immediately is like, I can't believe you'd give intimate details and pretend like we're together. That is, like, my sticking point that I can't get over. It's like, you literally just told us he didn't do that. So I feel like if he would have had this reaction before the conversation, I would have more, like, understanding towards it. But it's he just witnessed a direct, but Fitz does that, right? Like, he gets in his head, he thinks a certain way, and then he can't let it go. He's seeing it through that lens now. There's no getting out of it until somebody else points out that he's not thinking correctly.
That's why I think, like, again, I'll bring it up and it'll lead into this next section of the chapter where that initial thing that he thinks about and is angry at, obviously he has a right to feel that way if he wishes to. That is what unlocked and pushed open the door, and the whole other persona is somebody barging in and shoving him to the ground, basically, with his trust. You know, this is Fitz holding on to that first thing because the second hit so hard as well.
Yeah.
He says, I sat alone by the light of my candle and wondered who, in truth, the Fool was. I scraped together in a small heap all the tiny hints and clues that I had gathered over the years and considered them. I'd put my life in his hands any number of times. He'd read all of my journals, demanded a full reporting of all my travels, and I'd given them to him. And what had he offered me in return? Riddles and mysteries and bits of himself. And like cooling tar, my feelings for the fool hardened as they grew colder. The injury grew in me as I thought about it. He had excluded me. The heart knows but one reaction to that. I would now exclude him. I stood and then walked to the door of my room. I shut it completely, not loudly, but not caring if he noticed that it had been ajar. I triggered the secret door and then crossed the room to open it. I entered the spy labyrinth. I wished that I could close that door and leave that part of my life behind me. I tried. I walked away from it. There are few things so tender as a man's dignity. The affront I felt was a thing both painful and angry, a weight that grew in my chest as I climbed the stairs. I fingered all my grievances, numbering them to myself. Before I move on to that, I want to say that it shows in Fitz's heart and his feelings here how traumatized and damaged he is about relationships. We've talked about it before, but he had excluded me. The heart knows but one reaction to that. I would now exclude him. Is very harsh. Like that is true to an extent for most people, I think, but not black and white. Like this is how it happens.
Yeah. I think we've talked about this before, but I don't remember under what context. But Fitz and the Fool have such different ways of talking to each other and communicating. In fact, this is odd. This might be an off-pod conversation because I distinctly remember having this conversation about the fight that's coming. Okay. So we must have talked about this when I first read this book. I feel like the way that Fitz needs love and reassurance is that he wants like all details. He thinks that
it's full sharing, right? It's full sharing. Yes,
full sharing, no secrets. Although he keeps secrets even from people he loves most. It's like this weird thing of he wants somebody to constantly affirm, yes, I love you. You're important to me. Like, I trust you.
He's okay with some secrets, right? It doesn't have to be fully open, but like there has to be a give and take.
Yes. And Beloved, I think, thrives more on the unspoken, if that makes sense. Like, he needs the little, like, I don't know, like the little touches, the little like nods at each other, the like, I'm in on this joke.
A little bouquet of flowers on a tray.
Yes. The little like, yes, we're both in a ruse. Yes, we're playing a part, but I see you underneath, and here is the acknowledgement of that. Like, it is much less about the actual sharing as it is of like intimacy than it is on like the larger scale of intimacy, if that makes sense. And I think that they both just they just love in different ways, and they're not necessarily compatible in that aspect, and that is their biggest fight always, is the miscommunication of like, I don't know, Fitz doesn't want to be blindsided, and Fool just wants privacy and for his like own secrets. He wants to keep his secrets. I don't know how to like phrase this well. I will.
Well, we'll go back to it, you know.
Yes. Well, I'll workshop it, but
okay.
But it's there. I think that they have different love languages, and I think that it is really hard for them to communicate. And I think a lot of that in Fitz is easier to see because we're in his head. And also, like you said, this sort of knee-jerk reaction of, I am going to shut you off then. Like, no more access to me. That's how I'll show you that I'm not happy with you.
And he thinks about all of the interactions he's had lately. How dared he put me in this position? He had compromised his own reputation when we visited Galekeep in search of Prince Dutiful. He had kissed young Sybil Brisinga, deliberately setting off a social flap that misled Lady Brisinga as to the purpose of our visit at the same time it got us expelled from her home. Even now, Civil avoided him with distaste, and I knew that his act had inspired a squall of excited gossip and speculation about his personal preferences at Buckkeep. I thought I had managed to hold myself aloof from those rumors. Now I reconsidered. There had been Prince Dutiful's question, and suddenly my confrontation with the guardsmen in the steams took on a new connotation. Blood burned my face. Would Jack, despite her assurances of a still tongue, become a source of even more humiliating talk? According to her words, the fool had carved my countenance on a ship's figurehead. I felt violated that he would do such a thing without my consent. And what had he said to folk while he was carving it to lead to Jack's assumption? I could not fit what he had done with either what I knew of the fool, or what I knew of Lord Golden. It was the act of this Amber, a person I knew not at all. Hence, I did not truly know him at all, and never had. And with that, I unwillingly knew I had worked my way down to the deepest source of my injury. To discover that the truest friend I had ever had was actually a stranger was like a knife in my heart. He was another abandonment, a missed step in the dark, and a false promise of warmth and companionship. I shook my head to myself. Idiot, I said quietly. You are alone. Best get used to it. But without thinking, I reached toward where there had once been comfort. And in that instant, I missed Night Eyes with a terrible physical clenching in my chest. I squeezed my eyes shut, then walked 2 more steps and sat down on the little bench outside the spy hole to the Narcheska's apartments. I blinked, denying the stinging boy's tears that clung to my eyelashes. Alone, it always came back to alone. It was like a contagion that had clung to me since my mother had lacked the courage to defy her father and keep me, and since my father had abandoned his crown and holdings rather than own up to me.
Oh, devastating.
Yeah, I know. And this is like, so we've talked about this, and Fitz has had productive conversations or thoughts about both his father and his mother before, right?
Yes.
But this is Fitz deep in like, this is the worst thing in my life. This is how I can reframe these events. And honestly, that might be how deep down he thinks of those events.
I think, I don't know. I think there's something very raw and real about this sort of spiral that Fitz is doing.
Always alone now.
Yeah, it's just sort of finding touch points to confirm his deepest fears and then like digging deeper and continuing. I think Night Eyes used to tell him like you're worrying an old wound or whatever. I think that's what, because this is something that he does over and over, is just like continue to look for things that confirm what he wants to think in this moment when he's at his darkest. And it's really sad that he keeps doing this and that he is affirming to himself. It's sad that he's lived a life that has given him so many opportunities to read this into being true. But also, I think it really speaks to how, like you said, like the trauma that has happened to him and sort of the response to that.
Yeah.
I think it breaks my heart to read this because we know as readers that Amber was a very private person, and Amber was especially aloof about Fitz and the drawings of Fitz and didn't talk a lot about Fitz. Like it wasn't, yes, Amber gave some detail of like, oh, this is just a person that like I liked at one time, like a childhood crush or something, I think is how Amber describes him. I don't think there's a ton of detail given because Beloved is a private person. No matter which persona, there's still a lot of privacy. And it is so saddening to me that Fitz wouldn't trust that aspect of Beloved, that like, oh, I don't know this Amber. Amber could be anyone, and Amber is so different.
Because he doesn't know. He doesn't know what is the truth anymore, right?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't think of Beloved like the person, and then all of these different facets are a different just facet of the person, right? The Fool was the person, and Lord Golden is a persona, and Beloved just happens to be his original given name.
Yeah.
It's the Fool. And now he doesn't know who is real because there is actually a different person. So Lord Golden's real. Unfortunately, it didn't fit his mind. The fool is my real friend, who's Amber. Doesn't know if Amber has the same kind of tendencies,
Yeah.
especially in this exact moment where he finds out about Amber and is hurt.
Yeah. But I think that's the hardest part, right? Is like, I don't know. I don't think Beloved is blameless. I want to say that. But it's so hard that like the trust is so broken in this moment, despite not giving Beloved a chance to explain. Like there's no understanding that like okay, I think this is part of it. Amber and Lord Golden are both personas. Fool is too, but Fitz doesn't accept that. But why would he not assume that just like Lord Golden being able to successfully pull a ruse about hurting his ankle or do whatever, or like trick others around him, why wouldn't he accept that Amber can also be a person that can lie to others? Like, why doesn't he give Beloved the chance to explain the ruse as he has for all the other personas? You know what I mean?
Well, I feel like one, we've said it, both of us have said it this chapter. He's just so hurt in this moment, right? There's such betrayal that he can't objectively think about it. But two, I think that he knows there are aspects of truth in all of these personas, right? He thought that at first Lord Golden was just the facade, a character, but the more time he spent with Lord Golden, he's like, oh no, this is as real of a person, right, as the
Yeah.
fool is. And I think with that realization that his friend can have real people that are separate,
Uh-huh.
which he like already combined. Okay, you have the fool as a real person. Lord Golden is a real person. Cool. Now he sees another facet and is like, oh, you have a third. Okay. I didn't know about this person. So they're obviously real too, because he's already in his mind fixated or fixed in his mind the fact that Beloved can have different personas.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, and that they're all real people. So if this third one comes out, I think in his mind, this is a real person. It's not just a facade. Obviously, this person knows Amber extremely well enough. And obviously, Amber was in Bingtown for a while, and there was 15 years for Amber to be over there if that was
Yeah.
the case. So it's another life that I don't know about. And they were talking about me.
Yeah.
So I think that's why. It's just like Fitz does know Beloved very well, right?
Yeah.
Probably the best out of anybody, except maybe some people over in in the live ships area, because Amber was much more open in some ways and spent a lot of time, more time in proximity with people there. But I still would say Fitz knows Beloved the best.
Yeah.
But like, if you know them the best, so what? If there's another whole aspect to them
Yeah.
that makes you not trust them anymore.
That's true. I don't know. I do feel really bad. I do feel like if Night Eyes was still around, this would be able to be like rationalized better. I think Night Eyes would be able to sort of like say, "Hey, chill out."
Right,
Like,
right, yeah.
we love the fool.
Yeah, where's Wolf Father when you need him to speak up a little bit here?
Truly, I don't know. So
It's tough.
it's
This
tough.
chapter does not have their actual argument, but it's coming.
It is coming.
We're gonna end the chapter there though for now. This is part 1. We got through all of that discussion, and Fitz is obviously upset, but he's gonna try to put it out of his mind by doing some more spying.
Yes. Yeah, that'll help. Yeah. And I do want to say I think that this is such a hard conversation and topic to have. There is a lot of layers, right? And
Yeah.
a lot of nuance. And I want to just like say out loud, again, not the first time we said it on the podcast, but we are not professionals. We're not
Yeah.
like, we don't I don't know, we aren't necessarily always right about how we phrase things. And I think it's important to say that, like, there's a chance that the way that we were talking about things came across in like a negative way.
Right. Yeah. And we're just trying, at least for me, speaking for myself, just trying to embody the character's point of view and analyze what they might be feeling.
Yes.
And that does not represent all of our viewpoints necessarily.
Yes, I think that's important, because I think sometimes I personally get really worried talking about like characters or instances where there is like hatred of gay people or homophobia, or just like sort of the,
or like in live ships, the sexual assaults, and things like that.
It is really hard to talk about such sensitive topics when I don't have any training to do so, but also like I want to be able to talk about how they are feeling and what that like these characters are thinking,
because it's important.
Because it is important to, I think, put yourselves in the shoes of the characters that you're reading, but it doesn't mean that I believe that to be true.
Right. Yeah.
So I feel that it is worth mentioning in case it came across in any way that for some reason you listen to this episode 301 and are like, oh my gosh, these guys hate gay people. No, I would hope that you know us better than that, but
Not
also
just Fitz,
just Fitz. That makes it sound like we hate Fitz because he's gay. But
wow.
No. Fitz is having problems with gay people, not us. So yes, it's hard to talk about. We hope that we did it well. And if we didn't, please let us know so that we can continue to learn and grow. But that's sort of the PSA, I guess, is that we are trying our best. I'm sorry if it came across poorly. That is not our intention. But we would still like to learn and grow. So if you'd like to tell us, go ahead and shoot us a message at isfitshappy@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Or you could DM us on any of our social medias. We are isfitshappy on Threads, Reddit, YouTube, Facebook, and Blue Sky.
And Instagram.
Oh, the one I forget.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you want to tell us your thoughts, tell us how you felt reading this part of the chapter, tell us a funny story so that we can laugh after this heavy
and
portion.
If you have trouble finding any of our links, you can go to isfitshappy.com and find more links on there.
Yeah.
Thanks
chat,
so much,
everyone.
Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll get part 2 to you soon.
Yeah, see you next week. Now it's time for our favorite part of the podcast, which is to talk about some stuff that you guys have brought to our attention.
But of course, before we dig into that, I want to give a huge shout out to the people who have supported us recently, and that is Keith and Ale. Thank you so much for supporting, for giving us a little tip on Ko-fi. We really, really appreciate that. And also, as always, shout out to those who continually support us on there. Simon, Zakita, Anna, Neva, and Degenhart.
Yeah,
you guys are superheroes. You're rock stars. Thank you so much. And then, without further ado, we'll get into the comments you guys left. And we'll start with one from Sarah on Spotify. This is left on episode 5. So, Sarah, you got a ways to go to listen to this one, unless you're going through them at like 4 times speed.
Yes.
But Sarah left some comments on episode 5, talking about, oh wow, episode 5, chapter 5. It lined up so nicely until we started doing 2-parters.
Yeah, sorry everyone.
But Sarah is referencing a couple things in here that I think we did talk about. But when Fitz was a child, he cried out and said "mere," and we talked about that, MERE, for a little bit, and we're like, that's not an English word. What is that? Is that, the Chiardan, which is the Mountain Kingdom language? Is that Six Duchies language of something? And I think people corrected us later or chimed in and said mere, or maybe mere, however you would pronounce it in French, is mother. And that's what Sarah also says, that I think he was just in a moment of distress as a child.
Yeah,
He's crying out for his mother.
He is pretty young. It would make sense to say mommy.
Mm-hmm. Sarah also mentions talking about the incident where Chade directs Fitz to steal something from King Shrewd's room and bring it back to him as proof. This was a test set up by King Shrewd, but Sarah says, I always saw the knife thing as Fitz's way of voicing his displeasure about the ordeal. He reminds Shrewd that he could steal the knife if he wanted to by taking it in front of his face during their regularly scheduled meal and check-in, and then reminds Chade about his feelings, his displeasure with that when he stabs the knife into the mantle in Chade's room. It is an act of defiance. Fitz is not a tool to be used or played with. If he is not treated right, he will no longer be loyal. I think it perfectly shows us who Fitz is, and this attitude is shown through all of the books. He is loyal, but always finds a way to do his own thing. And I think that's a really interesting take on Fitz.
Yeah, I like that read.
Yeah.
I really enjoy the idea that even from a young age, Fitz has always sort of been rebelling against the mantle put on him.
I think it fits more so when Fitz is younger and he mellows out as he gets older.
Yeah.
He did take 15 years apart, sure, but he is deeply loyal to the Farseers and never really thinks about disobeying or doing any things like his own way, really.
I disagree.
I don't know.
He refuses to let Nettle come.
Yeah, I mean, he takes stands at some things because he's asserting himself as like an adult. But I don't see it as a I'll refuse your orders, but I won't refuse your orders, but I'll do it in my own certain way only.
I don't know. I mean, his whole way of teaching the prince and I feel like that's just who he is. I feel like that every decision he's ever made has been like, I'll do it, but on my own terms.
Well, then, good thoughts, Sarah. Thank you.
We also got a message on Instagram from Martin, who has said, I was just listening to episode 268, and there was a scene where Golden asks Fitz how he likes his horse, My Black, and it seems like this meant a lot to the Fool. I have a totally different take than you on this, I think. You remember that Malta was a Ferrari tier horse, right? And My Black still won a race against them. In my mind, Golden picked a, quote, sleeper build, top tier horse with character for Fitz. Sticking to car metaphors, imagine that you hire your friend for a bodyguard and you buy them an Audi S8 as a job car with no model stamp on the back. He goes for the first ride around the city and he beats you in your Ferrari in a 200-kilometer-per-hour race, and you see that he's still depressed and vamped by Girl on a Dragon, and that he barely recognizes he got such an awesome car to drive. So
it is interesting that, in Martin's point of view, the Fool is trying to gift him a great thing, and then is really sad when Fitz is only okay with the horse.
Yeah. I do love the car metaphors.
Right, yeah.
I think that's very fun. But yes, the fact that Fitz is not appreciative of this amazing horse in the way that's probably what Beloved was thinking of. I do like that reading. I think it's fun.
We do get, we talked about it back then, but coming up soon, it's kind of relevant to bring it back up. I think in their argument, the Fool yells at Fitz about that, not being able to relate with a horse or something like that.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see.
But yeah, that's a good call out that maybe it wasn't so deep. Maybe it was just he wanted his friend to appreciate that he gave him a secretly nice thing.
Mm-hmm.
We also had some comments on Instagram for the meme that I made about episode 299, which is part 1 of Tidings from Bingtown. And it's about Hap feeling like a manly man after his night with Svanja.
Yeah, the Hap and Svanja situation.
Yes. Probably Lay, sorry, French speakers. Lay Duchy 6 says, Svanja / Hap was very funny to read. My boy forgets he has a brain.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And Pressel Frizzy says, and I don't regret a thing. in response to Hap acting like it's so cool. So yes.
Yeah, it's very frustrating to read this. I think like years ago, remember when we were doing those brackets of like who is the superlatives?
Yes.
Which was fun. It was a bit to organize because I didn't know how to do it. But it was a bit fun, and I think Svanja made it a little bit far in the most annoying.
Yeah, she made it surprisingly far, but now I'm kind of like, I get it.
Yeah.
Those people must have been either rereading this.
I think
or
I voted for Svanja, to be honest. So.
I mean, to be fair, for her brackets, I think she got paired with some people that were less annoying. So we'll have to do that again. That was fun.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a hard read. It's a hard read, especially as an adult. I feel like the closer you are to teenagehood, the less cringy it is.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, then we also got a message on Facebook, a response on Facebook to episode 300. And that's from Ellen. And this says, I had some thoughts on Selden's presentation. First, you didn't mention it, but Fitz's first impression is that Selden is young, quote, younger than Dutiful and Hap. But how does he see that? Height, skin, and mannerisms are all, quote, unusual for his age when it comes to Selden. I think that Fitz should not be able to tell Selden's age or mistake him for older. It just irks me. And to me, it is a rare example of not excellent writing. Winky face.
I thought it was because of his voice. I thought when Selden started speaking, even though the words, like the language was flowery, he still had like a boy's tone. That's what I thought it was, but maybe I misread it.
I'm going to be so honest. I thought that the line that he is younger than Dutiful and Hap happens in this current chapter, in the part that we didn't get to.
Oh, yeah. Don't know.
But maybe it didn't. So I forgot that. But already, we just read it and I've already forgotten. How sad. But I agree that it's kind of annoying that he's like, he's so young. But if it is about voice, there is definitely a distinct quality of voice to children in general versus teenagers versus adults, I think.
Yeah, so he says, it's when Selden reveals himself. He pulls back his hood and everyone gasps and Chade's like, eat a mercy. And this is the description. The envoy was young, younger than Dutiful and Hap, though he was as tall. Scales rimmed his eyes and framed his mouth. They were not cosmetic. A fringe of shaggy growths depended from his jaw. He drew himself up very straight. I had thought his hood exaggerated his height. Instead, I saw now that the bones of his arms and legs were unnaturally long, yet somehow he still managed to convey grace rather than awkwardness. And he spoke in a boy's clear tenor. So the voice is clearly defined as a boy's clear tenor by Fitz, but maybe it's also the facial features. I mean, like, your face does look different when you are a boy versus when you have gone through puberty and like become a teenager.
That's fair. Like more round.
Yeah, definitely.
Baby fat and stuff.
There's a huge change from year to year and he watched Hap grow up too.
True, that's
There's
fair.
A huge change in year to year from 13 to 14, 14 to 15, you know? And if he's definitely younger than Dutiful and Hap, he has to be at the most 14.
Yeah.
The very most. But he was young back at the end of Live Ship. He was like 9?
I was going to say 8, so probably somewhere in there. And it's been 2 years, 3?
Yeah.
So he's like 12?
I would guess 3
13?
years. Okay, so he's probably 12, yeah.
Crazy.
Might not have hit puberty yet.
Well, definitely haven't if he's still got a boy's tenor.
Well, right, but...
Well, I guess, whatever. Yeah. There are many ways, whatever.
Yeah.
This isn't anatomy.
But yeah, that's like...
a good point.
It is a good point. I guess Fitz just never overtly describes his face or like why he thinks he's younger.
That's true. And with how different he looks, it is sort of like, well, how would you know that's not just how those people look?
Right. I took it because it was right after he revealed himself that it was his facial features.
That's, yeah. I don't know. Also, Ellen adds, secondly, when you talked about Fitz recognizing Selden as an elderling, even if he doesn't use that word, shouldn't he be reminded of his visions from Kelsingra and the Skill Road? He has seen more than just pictures and tapestries. He has had the Memory Stone visions.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
This is a good point. I thought about this the second we stopped recording. I would like the record to be known that
Too late.
it's too late. It doesn't
You're
exist.
copying
I'm just
Ellen.
I got the idea from Ellen. No, I was thinking about it like that night when I was in bed. I was like, "Oh my gosh, he literally like was in Kelsinger looking at the vision." So
Yeah, so he should recognize that. I mean, he was in a very dazed state, to be honest.
yeah,
He was
but
surrounded by all the memory stone. I don't know.
I don't. Whatever.
He should recognize it. He
Whatever.
should know a little bit more, but I think their conception is still like the Elderlings were the stone dragons, right? He should still be able to recognize, like, hey,
And
this guy's unnaturally long limbs kind of look like the unnaturally long limbs in these tapestries and the skill stone memories and the memories of Kelsingra that I walked through.
yeah, I will say, in the memories of Kelsingra, he doesn't talk about how people look weird at all. I don't specifically. Maybe I'm lying.
Oh,
Maybe
man.
I
It's
am
been a few
misremembering.
years, so I don't remember.
I don't believe he specifically points out the people looking odd other than their garb that they're wearing. And
Maybe.
not
I
everyone
could've-
who lives in Kelsingra would be an elderling.
Correct. That's why I think the only thing I can think of is when he gets into the tower, there's markedly fewer people, but
That's
I don't know if he describes them as like
I think he
taller.
just, I don't know. I think he describes some people as looking odd, but I don't know.
Okay.
I don't remember fully when he gets in there. Because I think he's more distracted by all the dragons, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
So, I don't know.
by the memories in
And-
general.
And I will say that we know that Rainwild people, although Selden might be a special case, but Rainwild people in general, their growths and things are not guided by a dragon at all. And
Correct.
therefore would look very different than a traditional elderling, because the traditional elderlings are being guided in their growth through their relationship with their patron
Yeah.
dragon. So
Well,
like
presumably Selden has been guided initially.
that's
Maybe not consistently.
yeah, and that's part of the plot in the next trilogy, or
The
no, the
last one.
final trilogy,
Yeah.
that
Tintaglia has not visited Kelsingra in years.
and the children are suffering because of it.
Yeah.
So
Ephron is dying.
yeah, it's horrible. So maybe it's just that Tintaglia doesn't have enough time to dedicate to make sure that he looks like a proper elderling, but also I do agree that Fitz should. He has lots of experience with elderlings. He should at least recognize something. He should have a feeling like he's missing something.
Right. Thank
So
you, Ellen.
Thank you, Ellen.
I think last but not least,
Yes.
we have an email from Allie.
Yeah. Allie wrote in to talk about the chapter titled Tarman of Assassin's Fate. Fitz suggests that the dragon who has claimed him might be Tintaglia, and Tarman tells him that it is a dragon he has never sensed before. Fitz thinks of Verity, and Tarman tells him that is the dragon he is claimed by, which brings up many questions. In my book, this starts on page 192. I think that these dreams Fitz has of flying as a dragon might come from his skill connection with Verity, his wish to become a stone dragon, or what I think is most likely this is referring to, Fitz has been skill dreaming with Tintaglia. Later in this book, Fitz had various skill dreams with her and Nettle, and I'm pretty sure Tintaglia tells him he has been reaching out to her or something like that.
I agree with this take. So I was on the train before of Verity as dragon claiming Fitz, right?
Yeah.
I forgot that particular scene, but that must be what stuck it in my brain, because I was pretty adamant in my brain of like,
Yes.
no, it's Verity as dragon.
Yeah.
So thank you for that reminder and bringing that detail up. The second part, I think I agree with you too, that it is Tintaglia that he's reaching out to. Maybe it's because he's so lonely. Maybe it's because his yearning in the cabin for the skill, and after those like cliffside haunts when Tintaglia got released. He kind of like latched on to that bigger entity. Maybe he's just piggybacking off of Nettle's skill dreaming kind of thing. I don't know. But I like the kind of thread there.
We do know that Fitz is highly skilled in wit. And that he has a very far reach comparatively to most other characters.
Right.
So it's not impossible to think that, especially with skill to help boost that reach, he could reach Tintaglia all the way in Bingtown and is having that connection.
Yeah.
I feel like we read last chapter or the chapter before, Fitz talking about having dreams a long time ago of flying.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm thinking maybe when he was in the Cursed Shores, he was able to reach Tintaglia in the cocoon and have that sort of dreams. I think that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but I think, spoiler alert, this chapter when Selden confronts him and says, Tintaglia says that you know her,
or that you have had dreams of dragons flying before.
Yes.
More so.
I feel like it's because Tintaglia remembers that connection because she seems to be fully aware when she was in the cocoon and now. And so I think that there's sort of that connection already. And then also the fact that Night Eyes is gone. And so he's reaching out so strongly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So,
and it would make sense that I feel like other animals would respect the grief reach out, if that makes sense. Whereas a dragon would be like, of course you want to reach me. I'm amazing. Who wouldn't? So like I kind of get the vibe of like other animals are sort of respecting the space of like.
I think dragons just don't even notice people that piggyback on their dreams, you know?
That's fair.
They're just so far beneath. It's like, whatever.
That's fair. But also maybe Tintaglia knows this time because she was like sending out those dreams trying to get somebody to rescue her.
Could be, yeah.
Who knows? Either way.
The second part of this email, Allie says, is on the topic of the fire magic and the circle of magic when we discuss that. It's also in Assassin's Fate. Fitz gets frustrated that he can't light the fire and accidentally uses the skill to do so. But I think Fitz being able to use the skill in this way is a result of being covered in skill and not something one could naturally do. Allie also believes that Verity fixing the sword is also because Verity is covered in the skill and it's not a regular skill ability. And I agree that the fixing of the sword is. I still don't remember the final Assassin's Fate fire scene. So this is a nice little added context to it. And it's evidence that it's not part of the fire making abilities or fire making magics.
I mean, it could still be part of a fire making magic. There's still a chance. I mean, I think it's put in the same level as beast magic. It's supposed to be on that side of the circle, which you could argue Fitz uses skill and wit intermingled. I don't know. And so potentially with the strengthening of his skill, he is able to strengthen his wit as well to access that level of magic. Who knows? I'm just saying that's a possibility, but I like the idea that maybe this is just like a weird.
When you're covered in liquid magic and it coats your whole body,
anything can happen.
Some goofy stuff. Yeah. Thank you, Allie.
Thank you, Allie. And thank you, everyone who wrote in. It's so nice to hear from you guys. We love hearing your thoughts, theories, and ideas.
Mm-hmm. And next week, we will discuss any of your favorite moments for the first 300 episodes, or I guess the last one, this one too.
Yeah, maybe this is your favorite episode. I don't know.
So this is your last week to send in some thoughts about it and some stories and favorites and things like that. And we'll go over a few of them next week. Thank you.